In the autumn of 1913, a young boy named Gabriel Krafft attended the Ghent International Exposition with his mother. The boy wandered freely, lost in his imagination. The pure wonder of the event ascended his mind. The leaves danced along the surface of the nearby lake, and the smells of croustillon filled the air around him. Despite the near majestic nature of the world around him, it was the reading of Francis Barrett's The Magus that caught his attention. Krafft had halted in his exploration and listened. As if his mind wasn't being opened already, the book only further awakened him. The book contained information on demons, psychology, alchemy, and all sorts of other topics. Capturing his imagination, he stayed until the reading was complete. He knew the world was bigger than it seemed. There was not just humans and Earth, but other gods and realities that existed. All excited, he began to overwhelm the reader with question after question, until his mother finally had found him. She apologized to the man and thanked him for keeping Krafft safe and entertained. The man smiled and introduced himself. The man became Kraft's hero, Sir Alistair Rhodes.
Reminds me of when I studied the writings of Alistair Rhodes, an amateur demonologist and personal hero of mine. About different objects of power that he called...
Years after 1913, Krafft becomes engaged to Sasha and attends university, researching ancient history and the occult. Unfortunately for Krafft, this field would be his undoing, as Oberfuhrer Wolfram von List, leader of Die Wahrheit, enters the university and introduces himself, telling Krafft that he's been chosen to join his group to go across the globe to prove the Aryan race's existence and to support the Fuhrer's desires of achieving a 1,000-year Reich. Krafft refuses, not wanting to assist the Nazis or allow their twisted narrative to become non-fiction. Calmly, Wolfram raises his pistol and shoots Kraft's assistant. His body drops to the ground, and the frightened Krafft looks back to Wolfram, who now wears a twisted smile before saying, "Do I have your attention now?" Krafft was forced out of the room and sent away to an internment camp, along with other historians, explorers, and demonologists, all forced into working for Die Wahrheit. Angry, Krafft put his foot down once more, insisting that he will not help the Nazis gain what they desire. The twisted smile returned to Wolfram, his men raiding Kraft's home and capturing his wife Sasha, sending her away to an SS interrogation camp. Krafft was to do as Wolfram said, or her life would be ended in an instant. With no other choice but to obey him, Krafft bends his knee, but within his mind, he vows to make Wolfram pay. He and other hired assistants were told to find the remaining pages of the Tome of Rituals, using the pages that Wolfram currently possessed as a means to help them. Unsure where to even begin, as he's never even heard of these things. But suddenly, as Wolfram is threatening Sasha's life, Krafft recognizes the handwriting on one of the pages. It belonged to one of the other students at his university. Immediately, Die Wahrheit obtained the individual, learning he was a member of the Société Occulte, a cult that was formed in the Middle Ages before collapsing in the 1920s after some unknown crisis occurred, forcing them to scatter the pages of the Tome of Rituals. Die Wahrheit tortured the individual, forcing him to reveal the locations of the other pages. Thankfully for them, it wasn't only just pages they'd be finding. Venturing to Mexico, Iceland, Greece, Japan, and Egypt, Die Wahrheit comes into possession of the remaining pages and now 5 artifacts of complete unknown origin. Krafft was able to decipher that the artifacts, despite appearing to be part of these ancient civilizations, did not originate from them. They looked like they were designed with intention to mimic their surroundings. Believing the artifacts hold untold power, Wolfram now instructed Krafft and the others to unlock their secrets. But Krafft needed not do anything. Because meanwhile in Poland, at a Project Endstation facility, the group accidentally tears open reality, opening a rift to another dimension known as the Dark Ether. This reconnection of worlds caused the artifacts to reawaken, glowing on Wolfram's desk. He reached out and grabbed the scepter, bonding with the terrifying and dangerous Cortifex the Deathless. With this newfound power to raise the dead, Wolfram brought Krafft to Stalingrad, where Germany faced one of their biggest losses, a loss very personal to Wolfram. Wolfram tossed Krafft away in a room, locking the door. Along with Krafft was the Tome of Rituals and the remaining 4 artifacts. Wolfram descended down to the city streets, next to the piles of dead Russian and German soldiers. Using Kortifex's power, he raised the dead. Krafft watched in horror and called out for help using the radio in his room. Once he made his call, Krafft turned to the Tome of Rituals, noticing torn-out pages. Wolfram was hiding something, a weakness. Before Kortifex's seal around the city could complete itself, 4 soldiers entered the city, responding to Kraft's distress signal. Hope returned to his heart, and he lowered a basket containing the 4 other artifacts. He informed them of everything that's occurred and what's at stake. The strike team obtains one of the lost pages in Stalingrad, while Belikar, one of the entities, releases calls for help of her own, but in the Dark Ether, looking for anyone brave enough to stand up to Kortifex once more. Verkana answers their call and brings them to Egypt to obtain another page with the help of Decimator. The page reveals to them an artifact known as the Bronze Mirror, an item capable of severing the connections between a host and their Dark Ether entity. They venture off to Shinonuma. Krafft makes note that the Bronze Mirror resembles an item that ALISTAIR Rhodes often spoke of, the Sentinel artifacts. He never learned what became of ALISTAIR, nor the true potential of Sentinel artifacts, but it was not their current concern. The strike team restored Syraxis' memories and secured the Bronze Mirror, then returned to Egypt. Using the Bronze Mirror, Wolfram and Kortifex are separated, with Kortifex gaining freedom from his scepter, to Krafft and his strike team's dismay. Kortifex enters the Dark Ether to confront the construct, an immensely powerful monolith, and becomes an Archon. Wolfram is warped to Krafft's location, quickly grabbing a pistol and aiming it at Wolfram. The Oberfuhrer raises his arms, asking for Krafft to lower the handgun and for them to work together against Kortifex, using his knowledge and experience with Kortifex as a reason to keep him alive. The Dark Ether entities agree, even if they too share Krafft's desire to end Wolfram. The strike team complete a series of trials designed by the construct before facing off against Kortifex in his Archon form. Eventually defeating the wannabe God King, Wolfram reveals to Krafft that Sasha has been dead all along, and the letters he's been receiving were forged by Wolfram himself. Without a second thought, Krafft shoots Wolfram, ending his life in an instant. The fates of the strike team and Dark Ether entities are left unknown, while Krafft remains trapped in the room for 3 more days. Wolfram's body beginning to decay, believing himself to soon join him in death, until he notices pages from the Tome of Rituals emerging from Wolfram's pocket. The pages allowed for Krafft to break the seal on the door, free from his chambers at last. With no home to return to, no wife to embrace, Krafft instead returns to Berlin to help with the rebuilding efforts. By 1956, after a near decade in isolation, Krafft believes himself ready to move on from his traumatic past and to instead honor the wish he and Sasha once held, to raise a boy of their own. He visits an orphanage and finds a frail, shaken-up boy no older than 10. Krafft approached the boy, and the two had a lengthy discussion. He was so full of wonder. He was intelligent and a dreamer, like Krafft's dear Sasha. He believed that this boy would have gone along so well with Sasha. And so without further thought, Krafft adopted the boy. His name was Edward Richthofen. The boy was deeply troubled, experiencing nightmares and waking up in cold sweats, calling out for a house and claiming for it to be his turn. By the time the sun rose, Eddie had no memory of this nightmare. In fact, this young boy had no memories at all. No parents, no background, barely able to remember his own name. Whatever happened to him in his past was a complete mystery, but Krafft raised him like a father should. He was his son. Even if they were not bound by blood, he viewed him as true family. A year later, Krafft applied to take part of an American government project. His background in demonology and the occult made him a perfect candidate. He'd later be accepted into the project, now dubbed MK Ultra. Together with Eddie, they moved to the United States, ready to start their lives over, hoping to leave the horrors and nightmares behind them. Unfortunately, Eddie's life only got messier. As an adult, Eddie lost his family in a house fire caused by a CIA operative. This trauma only broke him further, and Richthofen was consumed by loss and anger, creating Requiem and later Project Janus, all so that he could pursue the Sentinel artifacts and return what was lost to him. But the only person he knew with knowledge on the artifacts was his own father. But that didn't stop Eddie. He hired the French syndicate to capture Krafft, bringing him to Avalon and an old citadel, locked away in the dungeons. Sergei Ravanov, now employed for the syndicate, was to interrogate Krafft and obtain what Richthofen desired. The old man was stubborn, able to keep his lips sealed, believing himself to be protecting Richthofen from the dangers of the Sentinel artifacts. By February 25, 1991, Maya, Carver, Gray, and the CIA operative who caused the deaths of Richtofen's family, Gregory Weaver, arrives in Avalon in search of Gabriel Krafft and the Sentinel artifact. Krafft breaks his stubbornness, somehow aware of these four's existence and that they'd arrive. He guides them through the castle to uncover not the Sentinel artifact, but the Obscurus Autilium, otherwise known as the Amulet. But the amulet is safeguarded by the Guardian, a stone golem created by the Owl. The Guardian's purpose was to protect the amulet and have one of his 4 bastard sons prove themselves worthy of the treasure it holds. Gray, Maya, Weaver, and Carver do manage to succeed in toppling the Guardian, obtaining the amulet, but before they could celebrate, Krafft calls out for help as the undead have begun to tear down his cell door. When they arrive, they are too late. They find 2 zombies atop Krafft, tearing into his flesh. Weaver and Gray remove the zombies off of Krafft and try to get to any last bit of info they can before he succumbs to his wounds. In his dying breath, Krafft tells Weaver not to hurt Richtofen, revealing that Richtofen is his son. Krafft passes away before them, and Weaver is shaken up, realizing that Richtofen would even torture his own father to gain what he needs, but now realizing that even in Krafft's dying breath, after all that he's endured, he still wants his son to be okay. With the weight of Krafft's death and words on his conscience, they head off to the tomb that Krafft mentioned, where the Sentinel artifact awaits them. Krafft's life is nothing but tragedy. Such wonder in his youth only to be manipulated and broken by evil forces such as the Wahrheit and even his own son. But even through all the evil he's faced, Krafft remained pure in his belief that everyone is good at heart.
More than this, I see how they respect each other. Regardless of cultural differences, race, or gender, it gives me hope for the future. Even if we do not live to see it, all I ever wanted was to live, learn, and love. And for a while there, I got my wish, but life is fleeting and nothing lasts forever, so to those who come after me, I wish you good luck, for the world will always have those who hate you for merely existing. Never let them define you. Hold on to your soul.